Creepy things happen before the grave.
Good night, everyone. God Isn't Dead, He Was Just Sleeping by MrMichaelSquid. A rich couple in Vermont discovered it, according to the reports I read. They had started construction on a new home on property they purchased in the Finger Lakes. A getaway that got away once the crew first found the peculiarity in the frozen soil. They took photos and supplied them to my company, which handles larger drilling jobs, very rarely working for individuals. The photos showed an odd, translucent wall of what appeared to be some kind of mineral formation that was over 3 meters long and slightly curved. It was like nothing I'd seen, but nothing compared to what I was going to either. The 6 of us drove down, and I had the luck of taking the low drill LM60, a beast of machinery, but a nightmare to drive long distances. Despite infuriated drivers honking and screaming obscenities, I finally made it up the winding road to the construction site. It was exposed, a monolith of foggy white like a short wall. We began digging around it, assessing the size in order to pull it with the help of a crane, but we hit something else just a meter down that was even more confusing. It was a large rounded area of what appeared to be an enormous stump at first, but the team kept hauling dirt until a mound the size of a large room was unearthed. We all stared in disbelief at the ridges on the pink form and began to realize the lines weren't the age rings of an ancient tree at all, but the swirling pattern grooves of a fingerprint. Our team grew as more men and larger machines were driven in, and for weeks the digging continued. The fingertip did actually descend down to a massive finger, buried for untold millennia. It was weeks before the entire hand was revealed, roughly the size of a 2-story building, and the project continued as the enormous arm was eventually dug out. When the head had been unearthed, the crew began acting nervous and frantic. It took much of an entire city block. The religious members soon quit, followed by the superstitious, and as new help was recruited, pay rates jumped. Everyone refused to dig once the eyes opened, however, and that leads us to today. We retreated the equipment as far as we could before panic set in, when the rumble of the quaking earth tossed us to the ground as the buried entity crawled out of its ancient resting place. We watched from a nearby hill, through uncontrollable tears, at the Titan emerging from his tomb. The horrible look in the mammoth's bulging, insane eyes made me sick, and I trembled as the gargantuan being was birthed from the ground after uncountable years of stasis. A humongous arm swept over slowly, plucking a praying worker up between the tips of his fingernails and tossed him into his massive open mouth. We knew we had messed up terribly and irreversibly, but the only thing we could do then was watch.